Is the sounding board really for Tom, and what I've enjoyed in the season so far is that they butt heads, but they really get along. Like, he says what he wants to say and then gets his point across, and they don't really have a fight about it. I'm wondering, though, down the line, as we get farther along, is that not going to be such an easy relationship between those two?
I know you really want to see them just have a knockdown, drag-out fist fight, don't you? But,
no.
Well, season future. Maybe we'll get there. But they're both leaders, and they both have respect for each other. Obviously, the captain has the final say, so Slattery's role is to make sure that he's on an even keel, and his decision-making process is what's best for the mission and best for the ship. Doesn't mean he has to like the decision, but once you cross that line, man, it's a whole other ballgame, so we're not going to... You're the writer.
We had originally conceived of the idea that it might be more contentious between Chandler and Slattery, and obviously the pilot ends with them having a big fight, and we considered going down a direction where they were really going to kind of go like this, and then Slattery would be a perpetual obstacle to Chandler. And the more that we thought about it and really got deep into it and really talked to the Navy about how their culture really works, it didn't seem to be really at all consistent with how the Navy would work. And it also felt like a little bit of the easy route from a writer's standpoint, of sort of the easy, obvious choice. We'll have the XO, and the whole thing will start to be like Crimson Tide, but you can't really, that can only burn for so long before it burns out. And then you're kind of out of story, because now they're not getting along, and you can only do the mutiny thing once, right? And then it's over, and then now the cat's out of the bag. And so we landed on something that I think is much more complex and interesting, and which is that they're friends. They're essentially equals, although there's a 1 and a 1A, and it's much more interesting to have conflict between people that really care about each other. And how does that play out when they're in the crucible? Than it is with two people that kind of don't really see eye to eye to begin with, and all they do is go like that. This is more like brothers in a family show, and one's sort of ostensibly the older brother or whatever, but they love each other, they respect each other, but they're definitely going to be challenged by the fact they don't see eye to eye a lot sometimes, and how do they deal with that? And that just seemed to be more complex, adult, sophisticated storytelling.
Can you talk about the military? What kind of cooperation have you gotten from them? Did the task go through any training, military training before you got it?
We were given command at sea by Admiral Stavridis, and we were to do some background research as far as that goes. But where we really learned was when we first came aboard the Halsey and the Dewey, both guided missile destroyers, to be in the presence of the captain and his crew. We learned through osmosis and standing aside and allowing the ship to operate while we were basically flies on the wall. And if there was a scene that required our technical accuracy, the creators and the writers were able to turn to our technical advisors and say, is this technically accurate? Okay, good. It seems a bit of a mouthful. Let's pare it down a bit, and the Navy is completely adaptable for that capability. As far as boot camp, did we go through boot camp? No. It was on-the-job training, and it's very humbling to be in the presence of what I like to call the real deal. I like it when they salute me by accident. That's fun. And then they realize, it's just an actor. It's like a win. Bravo, Zulu.
So how would you describe your character?
Well, my character is a catalyst for decision-making process, and he's also a disciplinarian when shit hits the fan. He's there to augment the captain's command, and he's there to do the captain's bidding. And if he sees something that the captain is choosing a path that is questionable, he's there to question it without fear of insubordination. It is a fine line to walk. You need to maintain the conflict between the two while maintaining order and simpatico and good dramatic conflict, obviously, but it's a supporting role, and I support the captain until he crosses a line where, well, we haven't gotten there yet.
That actually leads into a question I was going to ask. Considering how much has already happened, I'm just wondering if you guys can tease what's still coming for these guys.
Well, for the season, you mean?
Yeah, for the rest of the season.
Well, they were in a race against the clock to find that vaccine, and they've also got, Russians chasing them, and they're also going out into the world and getting close to infected people, and they're going to be running out of supplies, and if and when Dr. Scott comes up with a vaccine, they're going to have to test that on people, and that could certainly be a very treacherous endeavor. The great thing I love about the show is that every episode really feels like its own little movie, but it's all connected in one overarching storyline, and every episode has its own different texture and flavor. I come from having done 160 episodes of Without a Trace, which was kind of, if a person goes missing, they're going to find them. They're either going to be alive, or they're going to be dead, or there's a million different sort of permutations off of that. But the template is very similar. Every different episode is a completely different challenge to do that kind of show. How do you keep that feeling fresh? This is so sort of fun and unencumbered in that the canvas is so wide open and huge. And at the same time, you're not floating around, because the spine of the story is they have to find a cure. And so every single episode is a movement toward that goal, but a different set of challenges, a different kind of thematic idea. And I think that's what's fun for the audience, is that they come in and every episode, this is different. Oh yeah, I didn't think about it that the series could go that way in this episode. That's what's fun.